All right. So we are without Mark tonight. He's got a previous commitment that he's had on the books for a while. So it is it is just the three of us on the board. Um, and we'll start. We'll call this meeting to order at 7:03 p.m. And we'll start with conflicts of interest for the board members. I'm the vice chair. I have no conflict of interest for the material tonight. Chris
This is Chris. I'm the treasurer. I have no conflicts related to the content this evening.
and Jeff.
And I'm Jeff, the secretary, and I have no conflicts related to this evening's agenda.
Great. We have posted the minutes online for anyone who was interested in reviewing them, and we'll take a brief moment to pause if anyone has any changes or objections to the minutes. Now's the time to speak up from last meeting.
Yeah, Alex, can I just pop in and share with people what I learned from Nancy, so that we know why we're doing it differently this time?
Please.
Yeah, so I learned from Nancy Vandel, the chair of the bylaws committee and our de facto parliamentarian, who doesn't look like she's with us tonight, that we can approve the minutes in a simpler way and just ask if anyone has any amendments or additions, and if no one does, then we call them approved. So.
Makes it easy.
Okay, nice. As exciting as it was to see the votes roll in, we'll consider the meeting minutes approved. And a brief summary of the agenda, and Jeff will get a lot more detailed, but tonight we are talking about the community plan steering committee, and with a focus on the land use goals that Tullahoma County is going to be asking us to address in our community plan review. So we are in the process, in the early stages of forming this committee, and we've put out a call for volunteers, and we have a few, and we'd like to talk more about getting some more people volunteering and involved, and talk a little bit more about what the work will be and what the community plan and the land use goals really entail. So that's kind of our what we're trying to address and what we're trying to talk about tonight. So thank you all for being involved and attending.
Yeah, Alex, I think we all agree that we had hoped for more volunteer candidates for the steering committee at this time. We only have three, but they happen to be some of the strongest and most qualified candidates in the community. So I'm envisioning that a lot of this evening's meeting will be about brainstorming as to the role of the steering committee and how we can attract a couple more candidates to complete it.
Yeah, that's right. And we do have until the October membership meeting. So hopefully there's some people here tonight who are interested in volunteering, or maybe after listening to our discussion about land use goals and the steering committee, you will mull it over, sleep on it, and volunteer in the near future.
Alex, do you mind if I take it from here?
Yeah, please, Jeff.
Agenda item. So our intent tonight is really, like number one, like we want to make sure that as we are going through this process, that we take every opportunity possible to give the community opportunities to give us input about each step of the process. So the step of the process now is we're trying to assemble a leadership group. And first and foremost tonight, if anyone has things that they think the officer should know about, or want, or ideas that they want to share in this process to inform forming this committee, like tonight's your opportunity to share that. And we have a couple agenda items that are just kind of meant mostly as conversation starters, or just kind of to get the juices flowing, to get people thinking about in the community plan kind of mindset, and and thinking about land use. And the first one is, I'd like to just do a little quick poll about, if any, like how people feel about the Oregon land use goals. And that answer may be, what are the Oregon land use goals? So I'm going to also do a very, very quick primer on that. And I'm going to start by putting a URL in the chat, which is a little cheat sheet on the Oregon land use goals. So if you want to pull that up and have a cheat sheet ready, but I'm going to share my screen really quick. Okay, do you see a slide that says Oregon
Yes.
statewide land use planning goals?
Right
Yes.
here.
So if many of you are familiar with these, but if anyone isn't, I wanted to just kind of put these up. And these are called land use planning goals, but it's really kind of a regulation framework that Oregon uses. And the reason this is important is it's like the language of land use planning in Oregon. Like if you're talking to planning people, often they'll say like, oh, this is our goal 10 thing, like, or things like that. Just want to kind of like refresh people's memory, or if you haven't seen these before, give you a very quick chance to look at them. But it's 19 topics that pertain to doing things like this community plan. But not all 19 are pertinent. So the first two are process oriented, and like we're not going to like community plan citizen involvement, or like they're just have to do with process. And then there's three more that don't apply to us because they're regional. So like we're not on the Willamette River. We don't have a major estuary in our area, and ocean resources is really more pointed towards the state rather than local communities. So what I'm going to ask you to do, just as kind of a thought exercise, is take a minute to look through the 14 remaining land use goals. And if any of these are like your favorite, that like really matter to you a lot, like kind of put that in your head. If you don't have it, like one or two that's your top, that's okay. I don't have one or two that are my top, but we're trying to surface things like do a little bit of exercise to surface if there are things that are important in the community that we want to be aware of as we're composing this committee. And also like after you kind of have in your mind like, oh, this is my number one, these are my top two. If you had like some runners up, keep that in your mind too. So I'm going to leave this up for like another 15-30 seconds so you can kind of look through it and think it. And then I'm going to put up a couple polls. Unfortunately, like I had to divide it into two polls, and we're going to take a quick temperature of the 20 of us who are here, what's the if anything is kind of like surfacing is more important than other things, just because we would like to have that data point for starting out. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen unless someone says no wait.
Yeah. Jeff.
Yes.
This is Guy.
Yeah.
Just a comment on the goals that you kind of eliminated. Goal 19, ocean resources, is something that the Tillamook County has yet to take on. It plans to take it on, and it will develop Goal 19 as part of its comp plan. It's my general thought, and we can certainly talk to the community development people, that we should actually take on Goal 19 in general. Even though the county doesn't have its structure yet, other counties on the coast do. And Tillamook County is just behind in that.
Okay.
So it does pertain to us. That's one.
Okay.
The other thing in estuaries, I think it depends on your definition, and I think there are parts of Neskowin that could qualify as an estuary. So I would not also eliminate it. And I think it's not that it'll be people's favorite right now, but I think it'll be addressed in some way within our community plan.
Okay.
The only one that doesn't really is the Willamette Valley.
Okay. Well, you're the most knowledgeable person here, so I'm very quickly going to update my poll. And Lynn, you have your hand raised. Why don't you ask your question while I
just have a quick question. It's just
Sure.
a procedural question. So am I one of the volunteers on this, that you are identifying as one of the volunteers for this process? It was unclear for me from the documents that I sent in response to this meeting, whether you wanted people to volunteer in the meeting or whether you want people to fill something out in advance. And I apologize for that confusion.
Okay. And if you sent something to info@neskowin.cac, I don't think we got it. But that we'll take that up later. But if you're so we didn't hear from you, so
Okay.
We'll sort that out. But if you're interested in volunteering, that is awesome. We're super happy to hear about that.
Great. Okay. Thank you. I sent it in. I was on the road. I am interested in volunteering. I can correct the technological problem. I was traveling. I apologize.
Okay. So no worries. Like it's fine. But that's great. That's great to hear. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
And Jeff, real quick, just to add to Guy's point, I believe goals 16 and 19 are currently included in our original community plan.
Okay. I added them back in.
Okay.
So 16 is out of order, so apologies for that, but it's in there. So I'm going to launch this first poll, and I'll go ahead and launch it so you can see it. But I'll talk, and you can listen to me talk before you fill it out. And hopefully this just doesn't take very long. So we have each goal in here, and I had to split it in two. So this is the first 7. And if one of the goals is like your hot favorite one, like that it's very important to you, pick hot. If you kind of feel like, well, I'm really into about half of it, or if it's hot, if it's not your favorite, but it's one of your favorites, pick medium. And if you really feel like you can't pick a favorite and they're all important to you, maybe don't participate, or mild. Like if the things are kind of like not important to you, put mild. So go ahead and hopefully we'll just leave this open for like a minute, because I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but it's just a conversation starter to see what people put.
Jeff, I'm trying to complete the poll, but I just realized that since I'm co-host, I can't complete the poll.
Okay. So, and me too. I guess we can just talk. Oops.
I couldn't get mine to submit either.
Okay.
So it's the first 7?
Yes, it's the first 7. We'll do, and then we'll follow the 7th segment. And 4 people have submitted so far. We'll give you
mine
a few
doesn't
minutes.
submit either.
Okay.
I think you can't submit without filling out something for every question.
Yes,
okay.
that is correct. So if you don't want to participate because you equally feel strongly about all of them, or you don't really have favorites, that's fine. But if you have some favorites, we're kind of looking to see.
And Lainey did ask, we have a question why we're doing this poll. It's of course a non-binding poll. It's mainly to introduce everyone here in case people are unfamiliar with what the land use goals are. I know we've got a number of questions about the nuts and bolts of what the steering committee is going to be actually doing and what the land use goals are. So it's just an exercise to put in front of everyone what Tillamook County and the state is going to be asking us to consider and to take an initial temperature.
And and thus far, like I'm looking at the results as they come in, we've got 14, and if you're still working, like just maybe wave your hand or say so, because we 15, 16, 17, and Chris and I can't do it, so I think there's only one person who hasn't filled it out. And I am going to end the poll, and I'm just going to real quick screenshot the results.
Can you not share the results, Jeff?
Okay, here I'll share them. Okay, so what did we learn? So for instance, I think goal 3 has quite a bit of interest, which is natural resources, scenic, historic areas, and that's like excellent. That's an excellent data point for as this we're forming this committee that like we have a strong, at least among the people who showed up today, natural resources and scenic historic areas and open spaces are a strong value that in the community we want to pay attention to from the beginning. Like that's the kind of thing that we were trying to, and similar with air, water, and land quality resources. Areas subject to natural hazards came quite high. So yeah, those 3 were kind of like the strong signal out of this poll. And I'm going to grab some screenshots, but I invite people here if they want to comment on what they see in the results. That's what we're here for. So if you have any thoughts on what we learned just now, please share. Okay. Give me 1 minute then, since
Hey, Jeff, while you're doing that, I just wanted to add that our original plan, is based on most of these goals. And you brought up the Oregon.gov site. It's an excellent resource for the goals, and it's very easy to follow. I think a majority of the goals are only a couple pages long. And even though the world has changed since the goals were established in the 70s, they were thoughtfully written and very relevant today. So, I think our recommendation is to revise the existing plan and update it for current events and not, start reinvent the wheel from scratch.
And I'm gonna launch the second poll, and it's the same thing, just with the remaining 9 goals.
Okay.
And we'll go through this pretty quick.
Okay, it's up right now.
Yeah. So I'm noticing that even though I edited the poll, it seems to have not reflected. So we lost out on estuary resources and ocean resources. But this is just an exercise to kind of take a temperature of what's important to people. So
I do see ocean resources, Jeff.
Okay. Interesting. I'm not seeing.
Is number 2 in the poll?
Huh. Oh, okay. I didn't put them in. I thought I was putting them at the bottom, and I put them in the middle. That's what happened. Okay.
And 16 is there also as estuarian resources.
Yeah, okay. And 16 of 20 have responded. We got 17 last time, so okay, and we have 17 now. So I'm gonna end the poll unless someone asks me to keep it open for just another second while they finish. Okay. And share the results. And housing came in pretty strong. Ocean resources came in pretty strong. Public facilities and services came in quite strong. Coastal shorelands came in pretty strong, and beaches and dunes came in quite strong. So a lot of signal that environmental issue, like aspects of the like the environmentally kind of adjacent, like the goals that kind of touch the environment came in really strong, which is great information for us to have as we're starting this process. And I'm gonna take some screenshots, and as I'm doing that, if anyone has thoughts to share, but if last time no one did, so I'll just be really quick here. Okay, so our next agenda item is also intended to be conversational. We'll see how the appetite is among the people to kind of discuss. And I want to like make it a little bit more open, maybe, because like if the place that we start doesn't inspire people to converse, maybe we'll throw it open a little bit wider, or just move on to the next agenda item because it is approaching 7:30. So in here in Neskowin, we have some land use issues that are very specific to the place we live. And again, we're looking to give people an opportunity to say, this is important to me. I would like the community plan process to have this in mind from the very beginning, because I think this is like a key issue. And I'm just going to throw out a couple of examples, and other officers, if you want to also throw out examples, I welcome that to kind of get things started. But in the past, say 10 days or so, I've had 2 people approach me with things that were important to them. One, like just yesterday, one of my neighbors said to me, when we have a new community plan, I like we should have a dark skies initial, like a compliance in there, meaning that we want to change the zoning to regulate outdoor lighting at night to protect wildlife and birds, and where we live in a dark area, that's something that might be an issue. Someone else was concerned about traffic, like people speeding on Hawk Street, which I think falls mostly under the transportation goal, but we could put in our community plan that we want better traffic facilities in the village. So these are a couple examples. So I am putting it out to the people here. Do you have things that are important to you that you would like to be in, that you would like to introduce into the process early and have us be thinking about from the very beginning?
So do you want us to raise our hands or do you want us to speak up? I want to be respectful of
It's
how
a
people.
small group. Why don't you just speak up? And if it
Okay.
gets a little bit hectic, we can start raising hands. But
Okay, well, just quickly, I would say that, first of all, I did not vote on about the goals, because having worked intensely for all the goals in Oregon for 9 years, I didn't want to do that, because I didn't want to show favoritism. One of the things you're required to do at the state level is really, support the land use goals of the land use plan. But I did find those responses very helpful. I particularly, I'm on the board in the Nescoin Beach Golf Course. I watched that community effort evolve over the last 5 years, and it was remarkable in terms of the volunteer work that went into that. It was pretty impressive, and I just obviously care a lot that be in a sustainable environment going forward. So that's a focus, clearly a focus of mine. But I am an enthusiast for 18 goals, because they interact with each other in a unique way in Oregon that produces some challenges, but also has produced some remarkable results. So that's all.
And I'm gonna dig it, like, so when you are speaking about the golf course, we could be looking at that from the perspective of our recreational needs. We could be looking at that from the perspective of it's between what, like it kind of fits into the coastal resources goal a little bit, because it's between 101 and the dunes. I think the golf course would probably be a wetland if there was not a golf course there.
It is a wetland.
It is a wetland. And in fact, it has had some really positive developments as a wetland based on the volunteer management of the course. But yes, I would say the golf course falls under at least 4 goals and probably more in terms of its role in the community.
Yeah, but I think that's an excellent example, because it's a total pillar of our community, and it touches land use in all kinds of different ways. So the golf course is a great example of something that we want to pay attention to. Yes, Lori.
I don't have a specific. Can you mute that? Just a minute, we're having feedback problems here.
Sure.
Can you hear me clearly?
I think you're good now.
Okay. I'm hoping that we can have some in-person meetings as well as the Zoom meetings about the issues. And I'm hoping that most people will consider all of the issues. And one way that we possibly could do that, if we're having meetings grouped on specific issues, is to start with some of the ones that we think that people will be engaged with, and then use that enthusiasm that builds on those meetings to get them involved in some of the issues that at the beginning they thought maybe they weren't as engaged with, but then they could see the value of participating and learning about the other issues. And I'm really hoping that we can have both in-person meetings and Zoom meetings, or maybe combo meetings, so that people really feel like they can get those ideas out there and not just going to one of the committee members or the board with and having those people be the spokespeople, but that people can express them for themselves.
That is a great idea. Ran, I see your hand up. I was gonna ask really quickly, like almost everyone I see here is a resident. But I do see 1 or 2 people who I know are not residents. But the downside of in-person meetings is that people who are find it harder to attend can't get here. But I don't know if anyone who isn't a resident wants to speak to that or anything.
I think going forward that when we do in-person meetings, there's just gonna by necessity have to have a hybrid component so that people can be Zoom in, and I think that's the solution for
Alex, I'm the tech guy who's gonna have to figure that out, right?
I'm not the tech guy. That's why I'm volunteering.
So I think Rand is the next person with his hand up.
So there's been a survey designed for the last 3.5 years that goes over each land use issue that people can weigh in on. And that's a pretty good tool to understand, help people understand what the goals are, and they can respond how they feel about that on the survey. And that is theoretically the ground-based information that we use when we go to meetings to say, this is how people responded. And so people apparently feel strongly about this or that. That survey is 72 questions. It's a pretty serious undertaking. All the informational town halls are linked to it so they can learn about it. That's the tool that is supposed to educate everyone who's interested about each land use issue and how it applies to Neskowin. We also were intending to connect that to the community plan in a link so that each issue could be connected to the current community plan, which tells about that issue, so people not only know what the state goals are, but they know what Neskowin has done in the current community plan, which is we're now going, this steering committee is going to get the community enough involved so that we can review what is there and then propose any changes to that through a consensus process that will require both Zoom and in-person meetings, I'm assuming. And I believe Sarah and her office will help us with that. We certainly need to leverage her to do that because the county's never provided any funding for any of these services you're using now. We've self-funded those, so they can at least share their hybrid services and bring that to our meetings. So I think this is a strange place to try and do that without using the full survey that's already been developed to do this.
So Rand, we're not trying to replace the survey step in any way. We're just kind of like having a conversation to help inform the process of forming the committee. That's like so we're not trying to change what's coming. The committee will be responsible for steering that ship. We're just having an early conversation right now.
Okay.
Yeah. And Guy, you had your hand up.
Well, I think Rand's idea, by the way, of including all of those presentations that were put together by Rand, Chris, and Brenda, that were at least coordinated by them, is a great idea of including that as part of our plan. I mean, can you imagine if we had something that could go back to those 98, 99 community meetings of something similar? What were people thinking? I mean, there's a few people around still that you can talk to, but anyways, but I wanted to comment really on Lori's thing, and I would kind of disagree with Jeff, with you a little bit about your kind of putting aside goal one. Okay. And as I think I think goal one is maybe the most important goal of the 19 goals. And it involves citizen participation in the process, and all these processes. It sets the foundation for how we make decisions, how our recommendations are made and things. And, I think that, we're already on the way with, this bylaws committee and going over that. I think that's part of the process, but I think a focus on goal one. That we want to make sure that whatever comes, forth from our community as a recommendation to the county, or whether it's a recommendation to the state or even the feds, which our current bylaws kind of include, that we do it as that the process in the community really kind of holds together, and that's goal one.
Yeah, and I wasn't intending to suggest that goal one was not important, rather than it was so important that we didn't need to survey it. That it's like
Oh, Jeff, well done.
I mean, honestly, that's where I was coming from. Like,
Yeah, I know.
Goal one is like underneath, like we're doing goal one right now.
It's the
we're
foundation.
Goal one through the whole thing. So,
It- Jeff, I think it might bear repeating that the whole goal of this meeting tonight is, we are looking for volunteers. And if, right now we have 4 volunteers and we'd like a couple more. And the way that the committee is going to be formed is that Mark, the chair, is in the board, but Mark is going to look at everyone who's volunteered and try to put a committee together. And right now it looks like we could use more people, so everyone who wants to be involved is going to be involved. But again, the whole point of the surveys and talking tonight isn't necessarily to get a jump start on the committee's work. It's more to inform the board and Mark eventually on, this core group of people that are involved and coming to every meeting. What are some of the important topics for us that we want to make sure that when the committees, as the committee is selected, we pay special attention to these issues. So in no way are we trying to like get a jump start on the work of the committee and skip the survey. It's just kind of information gathering from everyone.
Alex, and then I think in service of getting everyone out of here before we too long, I'll move on to the next agenda item unless someone else after Alex has something they really want to share on this agenda item.
Sure. Just a question on for the other Alex the younger. Who are these people? Are they here tonight?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
okay.
We're
So and then actually small committees get a hell of a lot done. So
yeah.
Maybe tonight after you have your meeting here, officers, you can say, here is the committee.
Yeah, we'll talk about that with you like tonight also. Like what are the pros and cons of like we could just stop with 4? Like would it feel more fair and representative if we had a few more people? We'll talk about that shortly. In fact, that segues well into the next agenda item. So when I wrote the next agenda item and talked about the criteria the chair would use to select the committee, we were anticipating that maybe more people would be interested, and we might have to choose among them. But it does not right now. It's not looking like we're going to go there. So, I think when I've been talking with Mark, and remember that the officers are not meeting like I talked to Mark, I talked to Alex, but we don't all talk together. So, but when I talk to Mark, I think we're really just looking to get a good group of people that know the Nescoin really well and that have a good cross section of knowledge about different land use issues and the community and right now I think the 4 people we have so far look really good. And this isn't. I'm going to share another thing, but this is an opportunity to if anyone here has something that they think is important that they haven't heard said about like how we're forming this committee, we're having this meeting, so you can share that. Hillary, yes.
Hey, thanks, Jeff. I appreciate that. I was just wondering if it was going to be similar to the short-term rental committee where we had the chair at the time had kind of selected different representation groups, and then people applied for those specific groups, those positions, so that you had a really good cross-section of people to represent the community as a whole.
So our thinking right now, and we can discuss this, that's why we're having the meeting, is that there's so many different things in Nescoin to represent that if we just made a list, that would be like something would get missed, or someone would raise their hand and say, why isn't there like a special golf course position on the committee or something like that? So we're like our focus is going to be just we've had a few people volunteer so far who are excellent people, and I think that's a great starting point. And if we hear from either tonight or later in the process that, like, you know, the committee would be improved if this perspective were added. We're totally open to hearing that.
But later, you wouldn't start it that way?
You mean, so I think, I mean, right now we're kind of taking input and talking about things, but I think we're going to start, like, the next thing that's going to happen is we're going to have, like, these 4 people are going to introduce themselves, and I think most of them are pretty well known to most of us. And then we can talk about, would the committee be improved if we added some more people? Like what kind of people would we like to add? Like things like that. So
perfect. Okay, thanks. I appreciate your information.
Rand, yes.
Yeah, I think the committee composition is people who are willing to listen and be open-minded and be fair, not have an agenda that they want to make sure is included in the community plan. That's a reverse of what we want. It's different than the short-term rental thing, which was very specific issue that everyone had a perspective on and wanted this way or that way, or somehow come to a fair balance. This committee has got so many state land use goals and things that they want to consider. They're not going to be deciding things. The community in the meetings, it's going to be making the decisions. So the people on the steering committee need to be people who listen, just like the officer's responsibility. They have to listen. We're not advocating for anything from these committee members. The committee members are there to listen and facilitate what they hear in the public meetings with the community, and then bring that forward in some cohesive form so people can make a decision about it. They shouldn't be representing anything. They should be just fair, honest, open-minded people.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, Rand. Guy, did you raise your hand again, or is it still up from
Oh,
before?
no, I'm sorry.
Okay. And Tom did raise his hand. Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Rand. I think there's a difference between this and the short-term rental committee. And if I were to say what the difference was, I would simply be redundant and repeating what Rand is saying. But I see this committee, as it's been explained before by the officers in previous discussions and other people, is basically being a facilitator rather than a decider of what the recommendations should be. It seems that where we're going is that there's an ultimate break or restriction on what this committee does, and that is whatever the committee thinks, it's going to enlist other people in the community to help it with respect to particular land use goals. And ultimately, whatever comes out of the committee is going to be voted on probably in a general membership meeting,
right,
by the community as a whole. And so to me, the very most important thing, and if I were the chair, this is what I would require. You can swear that you will be open-minded, that you will listen, that you're willing to think of you think of yourself more as a facilitator than a decider. So that's my thinking about it. I have no objection to anyone from any category in the community being on the committee, to the extent that they can do those things.
Yeah, I think that's the board and the officers are taking that into consideration, that the formation of this committee is going to be different for a good reason than the formation of the STR committee. And one of the most important elements and one of the most important traits, so to speak, for the people who are going to be on this steering committee is the fact that they volunteered, and the fact that they want to be involved, and the fact that they want to help out and just be a conduit of information and a collector of what the community at large wants. and by nature, because of all these land use goals and everyone's different experience levels, it's less of a two-sided committee and more of a let's take people who are volunteering who we think are gonna have a lot of contacts and context in the community and will really help out the whole process.
Okay, so I'm going to share one other item that's on the agenda that we just want to share, and then we'll actually talk to like hear from the people who are interested in doing this important work. So we had a learning in our experience setting up the bylaws committee that Oregon public meeting law applies to any sub-body that has the authority to make recommendations to the public body, or to the officers. So this steering committee, if we describe its role as it will make recommendations to the officers and to the general membership about the steps to take to get us to having the community plan, then that committee will be subject to Oregon public meeting law, and we'll have to have meetings in public and not talk to each other about the business of the committee outside, which is a little bit of a pain in the ass, but those of us who have been dealing with it have find that you get used to it really quick. You get some muscles. If the people who are compose the committee feel like this is a big burden and really hinders your work, we could write the charter of this committee such that you do not make recommendations, where you offer guidance, and we probably need to do some careful rules about what happens when you bring something to the general membership and to the officers to make sure that it is not a recommendation. But I think I don't want to discuss that right now. We can discuss it in the future, but I wanted to make sure that both the people who are on the committee and the people the rest of you know that that's a decision we have to make down the road. Do we follow Oregon public meeting law for the steering committee, or do we try and describe its role in a way so that Oregon public meeting law does not apply? So I think what I would like to do is introduce the 4 people who have volunteered in the order that we heard from them, unless anyone else has a better idea. So the first one is Rand. Does anyone need to be introduced to Rand? But Rand, I don't. If you want to just share your thoughts, you've been doing this work for so long. You're an obvious person to continue. And the plans we have, I think you are largely or one of the main authors of those plans. So you're obviously an excellent person to continue this work. So.
Well, I had sent the materials to you, hoping that would be posted so I wouldn't have to introduce myself. So that didn't happen, and I have a whole thing written out, but so I don't know. Is everyone going to do this? I mean, I can go ahead and read it.
There's no need for a big speech either. If you just want to say something about,
because I think almost everyone here knows you're a great person for this. So, you're not proving anything to us. It's just if you want to say anything to this group, and for everyone that is going to be nominated to the committee, the 4 people, and if we add any. When we submit that to the membership, we will make sure we have those bios, because we want to, in fact, Lainey was one of the people who really pointed out for the bylaws committee. It's very important that people know who they're voting for. And in your case, most people know who you are. But there might be a few people who are new who don't know who you are, but probably everyone here today knows who you are.
Yeah, well, I guess that, the point I would make is that this has been the main focus of my work when I first applied or ran for being the chair, I was told by Alex the elder that my main responsibility was to get the community plan done. And so that's what I have tried to focus on, and worked for creating the informational town halls with Chris and Brenda and a number of other people who facilitated the technological, presentation of that to the public as a big step. And then we developed the survey over the last 3.5 years through weekly meetings, so that we'd have a survey which would do what this meeting was kind of doing also, about saying, here they are, here are tools to understand more. And so people can make informed recommendations in the meetings. That's one of the key things here, is the steering committee will be presenting, but the public that participates in the meetings, you want them to know what they're talking about. And that's really important. So we've tried to provide those tools for everyone so they can read and listen and then make their observation based on that understanding. So I'm trying to follow through on my commitment to complete the community plan as a facilitator to the public, so they can come to a consensus decision in meetings for any recommendations that will change the current community plan. So that's my spiel.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And my guess is, like, if anyone has any questions for Rand, but I mean, Rand is well known to, I think, almost all of us. So the second person is also well known to us all. That's Guy Siebert. And since Guy has not been chair of the NCAC for quite a while, he may not be like I learned about Guy like fairly recently. But his resume, like, you couldn't have a better resume for this work. So and Guy serves on the Planning Commission, and among I don't know, a dozen other things. So he reads other communities' community plans. So his like, Guy, I don't know what Guy, I'm going to stop talking and let you speak for yourself. But most people know you too, and you obviously have an incredibly good wealth of knowledge for this process. So
yeah, and I think resumes and wealth of knowledge really are not the most important thing. I think it's that Neskowin's been part of my life for almost 35 years in one way or another. And, I really care about the community. And so I think anytime you could say, you've volunteered for different things and whatever, it's always been in the interest of this community. And this is a big part of it. I really, as I think I told you, Jeff, my wife and I sat in on meetings in 98 and 99 when discussions were happening about the community plan. I think I still have a copy of the draft that was given out, and I know it wasn't approved by the county commissioners of 2001, but I think I still have the original draft of 1999 or 2000, around there. But anyways, so yeah, it's I think what's for folks to know, the most important thing for me is it's all about Neskowin. It's all about where, as we prepare for a future. And, we've had, over the years that I've been involved in this community, it just always seems that there's things that come up that, we as a community have to make a lot of decisions. I mean, the short-term rental thing was only the most recent. We've had a number of things over the years, and we're going to have more. So I think this plan is essential. It's just really critical for us as we move forward. I know I've been asked about, because I am on the Planning Commission, which means that this plan, when finished, will come to the Planning Commission for review. Usually takes several hearings, and the Planning Commission makes a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners as to whether they should approve it or not. So I have sat through a couple of those other communities, but I will vote on this plan. And because it's a legislative amendment to our current plan, the law allows me to do that. So I can participate in the development of the plan as well as vote on it and make a recommendation to the county commissioners on it. So it's kind of a unique situation for me. But anyways, yeah, that's it.
And anyone have any questions for Guy? Okay, so the next person is Lori Kovac. You're muted, Lori.
Hi, everybody. I probably am the least known of at least those two, much less known than those two. Though I've been in the Neskowin community for a long time. I started coming to Neskowin when I was in the 6th grade. And in the 80s, my family bought a house in the village, and I lived in Neskowin for most of the 80s. My heart is definitely in Neskowin, even though there was many years when I was away. I was on the volunteer fire department. That's where I met my husband, Matt, in Neskowin. And I've been in Neskowin as much as I possibly could ever since, even though we've lived in Seattle and Portland and other places. I am most concerned, the reason why, well, a couple of things. I am getting ready to retire in December, so I finally feel like I have time to devote more volunteer energy to Neskowin. I remember when the last two plans, the plan was done and the revision was done, but I didn't feel like I had the time to participate very fully, but I paid attention to it from afar. As a profession, I've been a realtor for 30 years, and I've spent an enormous amount of time thinking about what's important in the community, what makes it a healthy community and a diverse community. And I intend to spend the vast majority of my retirement time in Neskowin, and I want to live in a healthy and diverse community, and I want it to be a safe community with a clean environment. And I think so many of the land use goals have to do with those priorities of my own personal priorities about just being in a healthy community. And I would like to hear everyone's viewpoints and see if we can make it work for all the different diverse groups that are part of our community. And I definitely am a good listener. So I hope I could be a productive member of the group.
Awesome, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Lori? Okay, and Lynn, so I guess we didn't get your email, but it sounds like you're interested in it, and I heard something about the state and land use goals, like you may have some important or some valuable background here.
Well, thank you, and I will send in. I have what I wrote here, but I'll resend it.
Okay, and, great.
I understood we were to address how we fit into the Neskowin community. I've been going to Neskowin for 67 years. My family and two other families were renters in Neskowin for my entire upbringing in Oregon. Every summer there was the blessed 2 weeks in Neskowin. And so I decided at a young age that really pretty much I just wanted to live in Neskowin all the time. And as an adult, I was able to realize that. And in 1982, 2 weeks after our son was born, my husband and I and another couple bought a cabin in Neskowin. And so it was a lifelong dream for me, which I was able to achieve. I'm very, started playing golf on the golf course when I was 7 years old. You could play on the course if you got there before 7 a.m. and finish 9 holes before 7 a.m. So it took a real commitment to be a Neskowin child golfer. I think the second issue was why we feel we are a good person to articulate Neskowin land use preferences. I worked with Alex Sifford on one of the earlier community plans when we were kind of under a deadline that we had to produce a product, and we got it done with, I think, a lot of collaboration and listening and an excellent product that passed. I mean, there's a part of this community advisory committee process that requires us to meet state goals and objectives. I'm in the community every month, every year, and I've been on our neighborhood association in Nesco-Inn and done things like that to support the community. My special knowledge of land use is I served under 3 governors on the Land Conservation Development Commission at the state level. I served under Governor Atiyeh, and I'm not in my 70s yet. So don't you all just go there and say that I'm 75 yet, because I'm not yet. But I served under Governors Atiyeh, Goldschmidt, and Roberts for, I think, somewhere between 7 and 8 years, where I got firsthand experience working with the law and the team and the other agencies involved, et cetera. I also did have done work professionally long time ago when I'm, in the 80s, prior to going on the Land Conservation Development Commission, doing land use work for Portland General Electric at the time, doing an urban growth boundary application, which was the largest that had been done since the land use laws were put into place. So that's quite some time ago. Many things have changed, but I have been a supporter of the program since Hector McPherson and others led it through the Oregon legislature. And I have a good working relationship with Tillamook County, having just completed a 3-year building permit process and construction process with them, adding a garage to our 40-year-old house. So I think that's it. I'm a proud grandmother of 2 children and 2 grandchildren, and our son and his wife are in Nesco-Inn almost as much as we are. So we're a family very committed to the future.
Thank you. That's a great background. Any questions for Lynn? Okay, and is anyone who has not reached out yet, like, going, gosh, these are 4 awesome people, I would really like to work with these 4, who's here? Okay, so it's 8 o'clock. I don't want to go too much longer, or it's 8:04 actually. But so I have 2 thoughts about a committee of 4. In my mind, like I'm like, the ideal size would be like 5, or the 5 people would be great, because you don't have it's you can divide the work more, it's a greater diversity of perspectives. But I would both like to hear from the 4 people who have volunteered, and from everyone else, like do you guys think 4 is enough? Like I saw, I think it was someone in the chat going, these 4 should get started. We're here to listen.
Aren't we supposed to talk about this at the October meeting?
So we would not be able to seat anyone until the October meeting. But we, like, if we want more than just 4 people, we need to find those 4 before, or those extra people before October. And there's nothing that says that you can't meet informally before you have been officially voted in. So
I suggest that an email is sent out saying that this meeting happened and it's available to be viewed on the website, and that there are still potential positions available if anybody is interested, that once they listen to what's happened so far and they think they could add to the group, to contact the board and make people. I mean, I honestly, I thought there'd be a huge number of people and it would be a competition, and that may have discouraged other people from stepping up.
That may be true. And it seems like any of those people who got discouraged didn't show up. Yes, Hillary.
Thanks, Jeff. My just initial thoughts are that my understanding was that the chair, Mark, would still be brainstorming and catch up with this meeting. And
he will. That is correct.
About the formation of the committee, where it sounds like we're just saying, okay, this is what it is. These are the volunteers. And
So
I know
Mark, it's Mark's call. Like we're kind of
Okay.
like, I should make it clear that
So when you say, you know, we should maybe go, when you're suggesting people go ahead and start informally meeting, that doesn't seem like a really transparent process.
So excellent point. The next
So I
step.
believe he was reading from the chat, that somebody in the chat had said that.
Well, I did repeat that out loud. That if when Mark gets back from his trip, and he reviews this recording, like it will be his decision. But I think it's very likely that he will be happy with the 4 volunteers we have. The question is whether we want to not say that we're done and like make a strong effort to find more before we say this is the committee. And if there's anything in particular we want to be looking for to fill out the committee that we feel like would be a valuable addition to these 4 people.
Yeah, I think you said earlier, you know, you can see that most of the people at this meeting are residents. And so since Neskowan has actually a small number of residents, we're missing a large group of people. And I think that we're also missing business interest. I didn't hear any of the volunteers who are all sound amazing. I didn't actually hear anybody with a business interest in Neskowan. So when you think about missing the business people and missing the seasonal homeowners and part-time homeowners, I think we're missing a large group of like the 900 some properties in Neskowan.
I do think it's important to point out, I want to be clear, the golf course is a business. It is a kind of a hybrid nonprofit, but it files taxes and reports to the IRS, et cetera. And I am a seasonal resident. I am not a year-round resident of Neskowan.
Okay, thank you.
Just for clarification.
Yeah,
I didn't catch that you were kind of like representing the golf course.
I think that's one of, I think it's very clear to me that I'm not sure that I am representing the golf course or that is an option. To be frank, I want to be real transparent. I'm someone who's going to have difficulty moving forward if we don't follow the open meeting law, because I know how to work within that framework. And I also know that without that framework, you run some real risks in Oregon. And so, but I'm not sure what my options are. Again, kind of, this is the 1st of September and it's been a busy month so far. I would be happy if there were an opportunity. I think the golf course needs to be actively involved in this discussion. I'd be happy to be that representative. Can I be fair and make recommendations and facilitate? And I forget that there was another criteria at the same time. Yes, but again, I would need more clarity from your group about what the criteria is for selection.
I agree. I'm sort of saying that too. I'm sort of waiting to hear that guidance. And I think that some people may be delayed volunteering because they're waiting to hear that guidance. And I see in the chat box, somebody says, let's get back to the statement that members of the steering committee need to not represent particular interests. But I haven't heard, I just heard that tossed out tonight. Has that been decided by the chair?
It hasn't. This is a meeting where we're taking input. But like, I think it's pretty clear that we can't have a committee where like people like have little like badges that say I represent the golf course and I represent South Beach. Like this committee needs to represent the entire community. So we're looking for people who can do that. And I think these 4 are great. So, but I think the ideal size for the committee would be a little larger. That's my personal opinion.
And I just, one more point on that. It's very hard to do things with even numbered people because you can hit decisions that are difficult to make. So I would strongly encourage for your consideration and for the people who are making these decisions, Mark, et cetera, to look at 5 to 7 as an ideal number in terms of just handling any kind of process.
Okay. So and not 6, sounds like.
Not 6, no.
5 or 7. Okay. Tom.
Yeah, I want to clarify something. It's not Mark's ultimate decision. The bylaws clearly say that there are 2 standing committees, the bylaws committee and the nominations committee, and that members of both committees or any other any others formed by the NCAC will be recommended by the chair and voted on by the Nesquin CAC general membership. So, I mean, it's, you know, it's ultimately it's the call of the general membership attending the meeting where we make the decision as to who will be on the committee, and we may likely accept Mark's recommendations or not.
Yeah, I meant that it's Mark's decision who will be recommended to the general membership. So, Alex, the elder.
Yeah. Simply that I don't think, I think we ought to come back to the whole volunteer concept here. We're asking people to volunteer for this committee. We're not asking for representatives of every interest in the community, nor are we asking for representatives to advocate for each of the 19 frickin' goals. So let's go with some volunteers, and obviously the odd number makes imminent sense. So anyway, that's it.
Sounds like at least there's some, there have been a few people who have voiced support for adding at least one more person.
Jeff, I think we are, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the plan was we do have another month before the October meeting.
Yep.
And the plan was to send out a summary email and say, hey, you know, as a reminder, we had this meeting and got some great input, and there's still a month left to volunteer for the steering committee. And just to reiterate the fact that we're not trying to make this decision tonight. This is just an informational gathering, and then going back with an email to the community and saying, hey, you know, we've got some great people that are interested, and a reminder, even though we said it, you know, in the meeting and put out an email, here's another email. If anyone thinks they have the time and can contribute, we are looking for more participants in the steering committee.
Right. And I will include the statements of the 4 people who volunteered so far in that email. So Lori, if you can get me yours sometime, it's no big hurry, but like in the next week or so, that'd be great. So Tom has his hand up again. It's 8:14. I think once we hear from, I'll give Tom a chance to speak, and if anyone else has anything they want to share, but after that, I think we can wrap up.
Yeah, I didn't mean to suggest that the 4 people that have put their names into nomination are not, if Mark were to recommend them, that I wouldn't support them. I would support them. I think they're all excellent choices. You know, whether or not we have a few more, the important thing to me again is that, you know, this is a committee that's going to be a facilitator, I think, more than a decider. You know, necessarily the people that are the most involved are gonna control the agenda to some extent, but I think the further this goes down the line, the more that people will get involved in the issues that they care about, and ultimately the membership is going to vote on a community plan, as it did, I think, in 1999. So I do think that. By the way, I voted for Mark. But I do think that we need to have meetings where Mark is in attendance to try to schedule meetings. I know he probably had he's on vacation. He's been, you know, he can't get out of it. I've got a similar problem in November. But if you know, the people that are going to be in control of decision-making process need to be involved.
Yeah, this was a mistake. Like Mark was supposed to be here, and then something got mixed up, and so he wasn't able to attend. So, but yeah, the intent was that when we scheduled this, that all the officers would be able to make it. Guy,
I hate to be in a position of taking an opposite position than Lynn because of her experience, but you know, this steering committee is not a decision-making committee. It's a committee that's going to bring things together, draft some language, bring it to the community. And an idea that where we have to have an odd number of people and because of potential voting on the steering committee, I would hope the steering committee never has to vote, that anything that comes forward from the steering committee in the sense of what its charge is, it comes forward because of the consensus. A lot easier, in my experience, even interestingly on the planning commission, when we have an even number of people, because we have to have a consensus as to how we move forward. And so I think it's, and I'm only arguing the point because I think it speaks to the nature of what this committee is. We're not voting and deciding. We are bringing things to the community for their consideration, for our consideration in general. So I wouldn't be overly concerned about the number. I do think it would be great to have a couple more people, only because I think there's going to be a lot of work involved, and it'd be great to share that. I wouldn't be concerned about the odd number.
Yeah, just to echo what Guy said, as I envision it, this committee will largely write its own job description, because there's as Guy just said, there's a huge amount of work, and I certainly don't expect them to do all of it, but they can decide which portion of it they want to take on, and which portion of it they want to ask more members of the community to step in and help with. But I think what Guy said about, like, if the committee is voting, probably that's the wrong idea. I totally support what Guy said about, like, working but via consensus. Okay, does anyone else have anything they want to add before we adjourn? All right, Alex, I will turn it over to you.
Okay, great. Well, it is 8:19, and if there's nothing else, I'm not sure. Do we have to take a motion to adjourn?
Nancy told me we don't.
Okay. Well, then in that case, we will adjourn this meeting at 8:19 p.m.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone, for participating.
Thanks, Al.